Hi, welcome back to my channel where we provide practical tips and techniques to embody high vibrational living as we move into and live in the new consciousness. Today we'll be talking about how to move from ego to soul resonance. So let's start by talking about the ego and the soul. What exactly is the soul and what exactly is ego? According to spiritual philosophies, our being is divided into different sections. We first have our physical section, which is our physical body. And then we've got our ego selves. Our ego selves is the part of us that interacts with the external world. And then if we go deeper down, we have got our mental selves, and that is where our mind resides, where our thoughts come from, our analysis, our rational thinking, all that resides in the mind. And then we go slightly deeper, and this is where we find our emotional selves. This is the emotional center. And then if we go deeper down still, we find our soul. Our soul holds the deepest and most pure and true resonance of ourselves. So how do the soul and the ego interact with one another? So let's use an analogy of a deep sea diver. If you can imagine a deep sea diver, but the old-fashioned deep sea divers, where they wear these big metal helmets and they're connected via a pipe to the mothership, and they are lowered into the deep sea, completely protected, but only for short periods of time, as they go underwater and they walk along the land under the sea, collecting information and doing research. So the mothership is the soul, and the deep sea diver is what happens when an aspect of the soul reincarnates into a body. The body is impermanent. The mind is impermanent. Our egoic selves is impermanent. Our emotional body is impermanent. The only thing that is permanent is our soul. And this is the soul that goes back to the mothership, delivers the findings, learns and evolves from the findings, and then goes on another mission and deep sea dives again. So our soul resonance holds our purest resonance because it is permanent. Our egoic selves is temporary because it is there for the here and now, so that we can interact with the external world. We can filter out anything that is not in resonance with our soul selves, our mental selves, and our emotional selves. And we can deliver our soul resonance and our soul purpose and our soul movements via the egoic self to the external world. And that is how someone who is fully aligned with our soul selves will interact with the world. However, in these days, we don't necessarily align with our deeper selves. We are not so in touch with our true resonance of the soul. And The main reason for this is because the external world is so loud, and we keep all our focus on the external world. And so when we interact, we just interact from a very superficial external aspect of only the ego. Right now, it is all about things like how much money we can make, for example, how big our house is, what sort of clothes we're wearing. And because we keep our focus on the very loud external world, we've become quite individualistic as well. And it becomes all about the me, me, me. And as we focus on the me, what happens is we are interacting at an imbalance where we are paying about 70% of our attention to our ego selves and about 25% to our mind and emotional selves, and maybe 5%, if that, to our soul selves. In actual fact, to move to a soul resonance, we need to start paying 70% to our soul resonance, our soul selves, about 25% to our physical, mental, and emotional selves, and about 5% to our ego selves, where the ego self is merely a filter of the external world into our soul selves and our internal world out into the external world. So, what is needed then is for us to go deep within and to start aligning ourselves with our soul resonance. It's about getting in touch with our deeper selves. And it's about starting to become more and more aware of the urges from our soul resonance. So how can we do this? I will give you about 9 ways to do this. The first and most basic step is to detach as much as possible from the allure of the external world. When I talk about detachment, it's about moving away from the loud, very tangible noise from the external world and moving to the quiet softness of our internal world. The external world is very tangible. You can touch and feel everything. You can touch and feel money. You can get instant gratification when you're purchasing something. You can get instant gratification when you get quite a lot of followers on social media. It's very loud. However, as we're moving towards our soul resonance, it becomes softer and subtler, but more real. It becomes more permanent. The external world is very fickle. It changes. It keeps changing. And sometimes we feel the stress of this constant change because we have completely attached to the external world. The external world feeds us currently. It feeds our well-being. And because it changes, we get so stressed because our well-being really is not fed properly. However, if we start detaching from the external world and we start moving into our internal soul resonance, that is permanent. And that will keep feeding us indefinitely. The external world is very addictive. So what we need to do is to break from that addiction and move into the soft sanctuary of our soul, our internal world. So how do we do this? We can do this through meditation, because meditation is all about focusing and aligning with our internal selves. Meditation teaches us to go deep within and to break away from the external world. And I do have a video where I do talk about tips and techniques for mindful meditation that can help with this process. But as long as we meditate at least once a day, every day, and it can be for 5 minutes or 45 minutes, as long as we take the time to tap into our true alignment, then we start the process of detaching from the external world and finding our way to our soul resonance. So the third way to tap into our soul resonance is to trust and listen to our intuition. Our rational, analytical mind reacts to the external world. The soft, gentle whispers of our intuition comes from our soul resonance. We all have intuition. Some people call it gut feel. Some people call it instinct. Some people call it a sixth sense. And what it is the soft, gentle whispers of the wisdom of our soul that comes through only in silence, only when we're able to receive. So if we are constantly playing in the external world, constantly bombarded by loud external noises, then what happens is we cannot hear the soft, gentle whispers of our intuition, and we miss the wisdom of our soul. And so many people in this day and age don't trust that soft, gentle whisper because it may not be verifiable, or it's come from nowhere. But it did come from somewhere. It came from our true, deepest alignment. It comes from our soul. So my recommendation would be to trust that and open that more and more, because those whispers come from our soul resonance and they carry with it our true soul purpose. And the more we trust our soul resonance, the more we stay true to our soul purpose, and the more we stick to our path, completely detached from external stimulus. The fourth tip that I have to give is to spend more time alone off the grid. In this day and age, with the internet, we are constantly bombarded by information. We are constantly bombarded by opinions. It's very difficult for us to switch off. The minute we wake up in the morning, some of us turn to our emails. Some of us turn to the internet. And just before we go to bed, we again check our emails or our social media accounts. And during the day, we're constantly bombarded by noise, whether it's at work through other people's opinions and the chatter at work, or whether we're with our families and the chatter with the families and the needs of the kids and the needs of the partners or the husbands or the wives. This constantly chatter, 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 chatter. And when we are engaged with so much chatter, we are constantly engaged with the external world. And we're constantly engaging with our ego selves. So take time, at least once a week, to go off the grid all by yourself. Maybe go for a walk by yourself. Maybe go for a run by yourself. Go fishing, perhaps. Maybe do some gardening. It's all about breaking away from this constant external stimulation, and to start going into silence, and then start going within. And maybe a couple of times a year, it is a good idea to completely go off the grid. for maybe a week or two at a time, so you can completely relax and completely let go of all this external chatter and really get aligned with your internal selves. This constant need to be within external chatter is an addiction and isn't so good for us, because we are then working at an imbalance. So to come back to balance, to come back to equilibrium, it's about coming back to ourselves and resting. And this is where we can take time off just to be alone with ourselves. The fifth suggestion I have is to start paying more attention to what wounds us, what our wounds are within. A big aspect of our ego selves is to protect that wounding. So anytime there is an external stimulus that comes through that could threaten that wound, we immediately react from our external ego perspective, and it doesn't have the opportunity to go into our internal selves. Sometimes our wounding is so deep and so big, it completely blocks access into our soul selves, into our true deep alignment. So this is where we have to be really honest with ourselves and really become aware and ask ourselves, what is that core wounding? Why are we reacting this way? Why do we lash out? Why are we so addicted to the external noise? How does the external noise feed myself and my wounding? And the more we become aware of our wounding, the more we can then see how we've been interacting in the external world. And then we can see how we can heal ourselves. So, let me give you an example of a client of mine and how her wounding shaped her life. She was carrying a core soul wound of I do not matter. And this was instilled and ingrained in her when she was a child, because she had one parent who was narcissistic and another parent who sort of revolved around that narcissistic parent. So when one parent is narcissistic, the partner does revolve around them. And so my client was basically pushed aside, and she just felt like she never mattered. And all the behavior that the parents demonstrated while she was young, as she was growing up, her formative years, was to reinforce that belief and that wound within her that she never mattered. So as she was growing up, she did everything she possibly could to keep getting acknowledgement from people, to keep getting appreciated. And she pushed herself to the limits to do this. So what she basically lived for was someone else's praise, someone else's acceptance, someone else's acknowledgement. Because when she got that external acknowledgement, it fed her wound. It put a temporary salve around her wound, because then she felt that she mattered. So she constantly lived in the external world until she got so burnt out, because she was trying to please her family, she was trying to please her colleagues, she was trying to please her boss, she was trying to please her clients, she was just trying to please everybody. And she ran out of juice because she wasn't taking care of herself. That didn't matter. So a lot of the work around this client was trying to find out what it is that motivated her to continuously seek this external acknowledgement. And as we dug deep, We found this core wounding that she had where she felt she did not matter. So the transformation work around that was about helping her feel that the only person who mattered, the only person's opinion who mattered about herself was herself. Once she got this insight, she realized that it was all about healing this wound. And so she went about healing this wound for several weeks. And then her entire perspective changed because she kept going within to see what is right for her, not what is right for the family or what is right for her boss or what is right for her colleagues. No, it's all her decisions were made based on what is right for her, what is in line with her soul resonance, her true resonance. And the more she did this, the more she realized how different her life had evolved since this work. She's so much happier. There's peace in her heart. And there are no more worries. And she spends a lot more time in joy. And as she is living in these higher vibrations of joy and peace and happiness and love for self, she has completely shifted her resonance to a vibration that is more in line with the higher vibrations of the new consciousness. So moving away from wanting to please the ego to working more in line with her soul has helped shift her to the new vibrations of the new consciousness. And all it took was for her to heal her wounds. So the sixth way to move from our egoic selves to our soul resonance is to start paying attention to our conscious and unconscious biases and belief systems. For this, we may need to recruit people that we truly trust around us to really pay attention to some of our biases. And a lot of our biases and belief systems are based on our egoic selves. So, for example, if we look at how we separate ourselves from people, maybe we might have an unconscious belief that only the educated know what's good for us, whereas those who have dropped out of university or college don't know what's good for us. Or perhaps there is a belief system where we think that only the rich are happy, and those who are not rich are desperately unhappy. And so what we do is we put all our work and effort into becoming rich so that we can join the few who are rich and who are happy. Another unconscious bias or belief system that we hold could be we are only successful if we have a lot of money, and that is the true measure of success. When actually there can be different ways that we can be successful. We can be successful at home if we have a beautiful, loving family, perhaps, where we're completely in peace and joy. We could be successful in the garden when all our vegetables grow nice and healthily. We could be successful just for one moment when something that we are drawing or crafting just looks so beautiful. So when we hang on to these unconscious belief systems and biases, they move us, and they're always based on external stimulus. However, if we start detaching ourselves from these belief systems and biases, then we get a sense of freedom to then be able to move deep within and to follow our true soul's purpose. Because the purpose of the perhaps ego could be, right, I have to have this amount of money in my bank account. Whereas our soul's purpose could just be to learn how to relax. So as we break away from that egoic belief system and move deeper into our soul resonance, we can then become free to be who we really are. But breaking our belief system and our biases, they will take some people to be able to observe and listen to what we say so that they can provide feedback for our consideration. So, the 7th tip I have is to practice, practice, practice. Because we are so used to depending on our egoic selves, we are so used to putting all our focus on the external world. We need to practice and to be dedicated to really move from our egoic selves into our soul selves. We have to be very aware, and it takes a lot of discipline to start detaching from all our external attachments. It will take a lot of dedication to heal our deeper wounding. It'll take a lot of dedication to become aware of our belief systems, and also our biases. And it also takes practice to start getting in touch with our intuition and to start carving out time in our day to meditate. But I urge everyone to do this, because as we move into the new consciousness, we will be moving into much higher vibrations, and it's all about being aligned with our true resonance, which is our soul resonance. The 8th tip that I have is to be really honest with ourselves and really tune in to all our vulnerabilities. Because there is strength in being vulnerable. Because this is where we can shed all our protective mechanisms. We can break all that armor around ourselves and emerge like a beautiful butterfly. A butterfly is strong yet delicate. But it's in that strength and that delicateness that a butterfly can experience life to its fullest and truly show its true colors. And so being vulnerable, having the strength and the courage to be vulnerable, helps us do the same, where we can show our true colors without needing external feedback, and just flowing with the guidance of our internal soul selves. And then the 9th tip is, once all that happens, to allow the veils of illusion to shatter around ourselves. The veils of illusion, or Maya, has kept us caged within its boundaries. But once we allow the veils to shatter around us, we can then, with our beautiful butterfly wings, delicate yet strong, fly away and fly into the new consciousness, fully and truly aligned with our soul resonance. So, moving from our egoic selves to our soul resonance is an important aspect of embracing high vibrational living as we move into the new consciousness. Just to recap the 9 steps that we can take to move from our egoic selves to our soul selves. First, detach from the drama of the world. Number 2, practice meditation every day. Number 3, trust and open our intuition. Number 4, spend more time alone off the grid. Number 5, be more aware of our wounding and take steps to heal them. Number 6, really pay attention to unconscious and conscious biases and belief systems. Ask those close to you whom you really trust to help you pay attention and give you feedback. 7. Practice, practice, practice. Be dedicated. 8. Be honest with ourselves and allow all our protective mechanisms and armor to shatter and fall around us so that we can become strong in our vulnerabilities. Like the butterfly, delicate but strong. And number 9, with more practice, we can allow the veils of illusion to shatter around ourselves as we fly into the new consciousness, fully aligned with our true selves. I hope that you have enjoyed today's video. And if you would like more tips and techniques to embrace high vibrational living as we move into and live in the new consciousness, don't forget to subscribe below. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.